Hi, this is Adam Baser with IHE USA. I'm here with Andries Hamster and Jasper Lieshout. Andries Hamster is Senior Product Manager, Interoperability Solutions at Philips. Andries is an early and involved IHE volunteer whose expertise lies in the domain of standards-based interoperability to realize health information exchange. Jasper van Lieshout is an enterprise architect at the Netherlands Ministry of Health, Welfare and Sport. The ambition of the ministry is to keep everyone in the Netherlands healthy as long as possible and to restore the sick to health as quickly as possible. Jasper, Andries, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Adam.
So let's begin. Can you describe how your organizations came to work together in a shared response to COVID-19 back in the early spring of 2020? And how has that relationship evolved over this past year battling the pandemic?
Yeah, shall I take it first, this question? So because it was, I would say, really an endeavor. If you look back in time. So in the Netherlands, we saw this first wave appearing as we saw globally in the end of February, beginning of March. And by mid-March, it really became serious, and we saw there was well, first of all, we were closing down a lot of the economy, but we saw an influx of patients into the hospitals, leading to an ICU bed capacity issue. So we basically had a movement first in the south of the Netherlands, slowly flooding up to the north, and certainly in the south we had severe lack of ICU bed capacity. And it basically came to a realization moment where it was basically, I picked up the phone, I called a colleague of Jasper at the ministry, and I basically offered, well, can we help? We are a company that have been active in the domain of health information exchange already for a while. So if there ever has been a moment to basically put our work where our mouth is, then this is the time. So that was a bit of a standing invitation to do something. At the same time, the ministry was trying to respond to questions from the health sector, the healthcare professionals that say, okay, help us. There's so much going on. There's so much tooling that is being offered to us. So help us just to see the trees through the forest. And I think that was the start of our cooperation, where we, in a very short time frame, under the huge pressure, of course, that we all felt, we had to set up something, and we were able to in a 2-week time frame set up this portal from the ground up, sign up all the Dutch hospitals to make use of it. So even the legal frameworks, the privacy frameworks, everything happened in a very short time frame, because with high pressure everything becomes fluid. And we went off with the portal, I think, first week of April, which was almost at the peak of the first wave. And we were able to to support the transition of care, so the transition of patients from one hospital to another. We were able to support that transition with the exchange of the medical records of those patients from one place to another place.
And Jasper, can you speak from your perspective on the relationship and how it evolved over the past year?
Well, somewhere in March, I became involved with a crisis team, which came about. People were asked to help, and we received the question, "Can you help us?" This was a question from healthcare professionals in organizing all these offers that are being made. And so we made a lot of sessions in the beginning with a lot of vendors and consultants to come to grips with what are they offering, what is the help consisting of. And there was a moment that the question from the healthcare professional became more urgent, like, you have to choose. In the Netherlands, we are very much used to giving everybody his or her place. Let 1,000 flowers blossom, that idea. And now was the question, well, we have to do it in an un-Dutch way, and that is make a choice and choose one system to, for instance, for the use case for the transition of patients, to make it easier. So the choice was being made, and we ended up with the Philips portal, the COVID-19 portal, being chosen for this purpose. And I think Philips did a great job at really get the portal started really quickly and get all the hospitals aligned on it, get it all organized. It must have been a hell of a job. And at the same time, at the ministry, we were still discussing with a lot of other vendors as well, were initially maybe a little bit, well, annoyed, but on the other hand, they understood that choice had to be made. So we went on with, we didn't stop there. We developed this, this cooperation. And I think this is still growing. So at the moment, we are in a phase that we try to do it more structurally, give it more continuity and make an agenda for it.
Yeah.
So that how it was started.
Yeah, if I may kind of complement what Jasper said. So we may have a little bit of a unique situation in the Netherlands, that the standards-based way of exchange, IHE profiles, were not new to a lot of hospitals. We've been working with HIE technology for the last 15 years. A lot of hospitals already were using IHE-based technology to do exchanges. So it was an easy way to make it a quick choice. So the acceptance of the solution was somewhat easy because it was not new to a lot of people. And what I really was impressed with is also the power that the hospitals basically put into the game here. They very quickly were able to organize themselves, because in addition to just a portal, which is technology, you also need to come up with a way of working, because you can. It's kind of easy to say, I'm going to support you with data exchange from A to B, but that means that people from A need to do work, need to find a portal, need to know what to exchange, and somehow the people at place B need to understand that there is a portal that they can collect data from, and they need to incorporate it into the local processes. And this, yeah, was really a power job by all people involved. So the hospitals, help from the ministry, help from Philips to get us organized. And it was really, like I said before, under a lot of pressure, everything becomes fluid. But it was really helpful in this way. So the crisis in that way showed us that we could do a lot more things than we thought we could do before.
Well, Andries, you kind of led us where we were going next in terms of the role that IHE profiles played in supporting the actions of all of your organizations involved. Can you speak to the specific profiles that were used, or how the impact you think that IHE profiles and resources had on making this crucial experience happen in the speed and time frame that it did?
Yeah, I'll try to give a few examples. So first of all, the basis of the exchange, of most exchanges in the Netherlands, and certainly with the image exchanges, are using the IHE XDS profile and the cross-enterprise document sharing profile. So that's the basis. But on top of that, for security, for access control, those kind of things, you need profiles like XUA and cross-enterprise user assertion. We had this challenge that officially, based on the law, you need to have patient's approval, consent to exchange data. However, in an emergency situation, there are ways to not so much bypass consent, but to create a condition in which you're allowed to access the data without the explicit permission of a patient. So we use the XUA profile in combination with what is called the purpose of use element of the profile to indicate the context of the exchange. And it's an emergency exchange. We need access now. Under those conditions, we were able to get access. We've heavily used the IHE Aetna profile for setting up an audit trail. We promised the government, in this case, and the ministry, that everything we would do would be auditable, and everything is also reported on a weekly basis still to the ministry, where we say, okay, this is the amount of people that have accessed the system. This is the number of patients that have been exchanged through the portal. And it may be a good moment to bring up the slides that I've sent you, if that is possible. because we've been tracking, and this is all based on the IHE Aetna profile. So let me wait. Yeah, if you can click to the first slide. So here you see a graph of the first and the second wave, basically until until mid-December. If you do another mouse click, Adam. Oops. Yeah. So here we basically use the Aetna logging to track the number of patients being registered in the portal versus the number of patients being transported between those hospitals. And you can see that in the peak week, which is week 16 on the screen, we almost had 100% of the patient transportations were supported by patient registrations in the portal. If you do another mouse click, you see a similar graph for the second wave. So the second wave officially still is ongoing, although we're hopefully getting to its end tail. But you see a similar distribution where when it's really busy, so in week 45, a lot of patients were moved from between hospitals. You see a pretty high usage of the portal. And these numbers we were able to generate because we have standards-based logging using the Aetna protocol. If you would do another, I think one mouse click. So here you see the number of unique user sessions and the number of logons to the portal on a weekly basis. Again, you can almost see how the use of the portal shadows the COVID pandemic graphic on top. But this is how we were able to use the IHE profiles to, first of all, put the portal in place, have a standards-based approach to data exchange, but also have a way to report the effective use of the portal.
Jasper, anything you'd like to share in terms of, it sounds like there's a very active and interested use of IHE profiles within your region in the healthcare system. What's your thoughts on the impact that IHE played in responding to this crisis?
I think that that this is one example, the COVID portal. But as I told you, there are many more vendors who came up with solutions, fast tracking projects they probably already were executing, but now fast tracking it to help their customers and to help healthcare providers. And I think in many of them, IHE profiles play a role. I think Andries knows as well, there's a big program, it's called Twin, and it's about connecting a lot of the existing networks and also other solutions, which are maybe not all on like XDS based. But looking back, Andries mentioned like the discussion about privacy. And I think that what helped me personally in my discussion with Andries is that for the past 2 years, we have been working on a ambitious legislation program, which is about making standardization mandatory for a growing number of information exchanges, like use cases. Like medication exchange or maybe medical imaging exchange. Those are examples. And while doing this, we have been working on like our framework. How do we want to approach it? What standards will be playing a role? And how can we give international standards like IHE standards? How can we give them a place in the Dutch healthcare system and be transparent about it, be able to explain to, well, normal people what we're actually doing. And for instance, the discussion about privacy and the solutions Andries found, I remember we were talking about it, and I think that's really a nice back and forth exchange of ideas. How can it be solved? And probably I think Andries already had it in his mind to do it like the way he did it. But at least it helped me to explain to other people who are maybe a little bit skeptical, and is it all safe, and is it still, it's a crisis, but we still want to do it within the framework. And I could explain it. I had the words for it. So I think that is a show of how it can help. And I think that maybe Andries can tell us more about it, but I think we're expanding on that now, on this development.
Yeah,
Past the portal,
indeed.
I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Again, to continue where Jasper kind of leaves it. So indeed, we are trying to learn from the portal exercise, because to put it very bluntly, the portal is just a portal. It serves a purpose. We needed a quick response to a crisis, but it's by no means a enduring response, because it's again, it's just a portal with a lot of manual intervention required by people to exchange the data. And I think this is one of my personal learnings, is that from this energy that we were able to capture, a lot more is possible with the technology and the standards we already have today available. So we don't always have to wait for this beautiful future to appear, but we can already start today. And this is what we are trying to do, and trying to bring people and organizations together to work with what they have today, and to do that first step, instead of waiting for another year before we make a first step.
Well, again, Andries, you're leading us to where I hope we can go next, and you know, IHE spends is really focused on understanding use cases and problem identification to be able to support the development of new IHE profiles and resources that can help. From this experience that we've gone through for the past year, and from your perspective, where do you see the gaps? Where is it technologically driven? Is it resource driven? Is it personnel? What are the lessons that you've learned from this experience, and where are those gaps that it's important for us to begin to address?
Jasper, you want to go first?
Okay, but I think that's a good question, because while we were working on the portal, this program I mentioned, Twin, was also coming up with a portal, which is I think making a head start now as well. But in our talks with healthcare professionals, CIOs, chief medical information officers, and the like, we got the answer back like, okay, the portal is nice, okay, it's helping, but we want to go to the next level. We want to improve, because we want to first and the last mile integrated. We are stressed out. We are on a heavy pressure. So we need solutions that make it easier for us, make it faster, maybe also more dependable, fire and forget, that kind of idea. And so the main, what is the difficulty is that the pressure leads to choices which are helping now. And the big question is, how do you make them add up and make it possible to grow beyond that, and not get fixed, bogged down in all kinds of, how do you call that? Shoelace, fast, duct tape, that kind of solution. We want to get beyond that. And of course, keep in mind, we have this legislative program. So this whole framework we have in our minds of open standards, open international standards, that's really important for us. So looking at that, I think one of the big difficulties is if healthcare professionals are so overburdened, they don't have a lot of time and energy and mental space to be working on implementing new ways of working, new technologies and stuff. So we actually need solutions that support that support the transition to newer technologies. So I think, and I don't know what the solutions would be, but I think that that's really a very important topic for us to allow people to make the step to go from documents to more like, well, like FHIR-based, RESTful kind of working.
Yeah, and again, to complement what Jasper is saying, so again, I think this is a bit of also the IHE philosophy. Challenges like this one, you don't solve by yourself on your own. It always needs other parties, other people, other vendors, other organizations. And again, this crisis showed us globally that if we want to fight these challenges, we have to work together. So one of the learnings and I can speak now for Philips, what we did is, okay, maybe we have to overstep our own shadow, so to speak. We need to, if we want to help our customers, we need to also work with parties that we may not always want to work with because we consider them to be, equals of ourselves. But in the end, to solve this problem, we have to. And again, IHE gives that bit of a neutral framework, that non-competitive space where you can have a number of discussions that you need to have. Because in the end, it's about the nuts and bolts of the exchange. So how do we connect our systems together? How do we organize these processes? How do we normalize those processes across healthcare organizations? And we need to face those discussions, because if we walk away from those, we will not. We can put technology into the mix the way we want, but we will not solve the functional problem that our customers have. And this, I think, one of the things that we are really trying to do. There's an initiative, this twin program that Jasper talked about. We are participating. We are trying to also organize the industry in those discussions, because also industry needs to play a role in the solution in the end. So we're trying to narrow down. We have these nice international standards. We have these nice, beautiful IHE profiles. But what do they mean for a Dutch context? Because in the Dutch setting, there's always these corner cases that we need to take into account. The way we treat patient identity, the way we go about with access control, with privacy regulations. This is how we bring this global, international standards and profiles into a national scope. And this is what we're trying to help achieve as Philips, and with the help of a lot of other people in the industry and in the healthcare domain.
So, I'm sorry, Jasper, were you going to add something?
I think it's not specific for IHE, but I think this learning of stepping over your own boundaries, that's something that, as I mentioned, we are now working on building on the relations, the network we have with vendors on the one side, IT companies, and healthcare professionals. We already had a very strong network, like with all platforms, patient platforms, insurer platforms, platforms of different kind of healthcare professionals, but a bit less, I think, with the professionals themselves. And I think this is really important to build this network. And within that, I see, from my perspective, that there's a really, well, quite a critical perception of the IT industry. So I think one of the goals is to give people the trust that they can trust the industry, and that can only be if companies are working together, if there's more transparency about what they are developing. And for that, these standards are really essential. And the fact that we can say, no, but Philips and a number of other companies are using a number of profiles which are developed internationally, so it's neutral, that's really key, I think. So it starts with building the network and then using these international standards in this context. I think that's really the main goal, yeah. And a very important way in rebuilding trust, I think.
And again, to complement what you have to say, and I was trying to find my phone. Not sure if it's not visible on the screen, I think. No, unfortunately, the Dutch government created what we call a Corona app. We all know that we like to track if we have been exposed to people with Corona. But also here we have a huge privacy discussion. So we don't want to track the whereabouts of people. And the Dutch ministry developed in a very open setting with a lot of parties involved, but in a very transparent way, developed this app in a few months' time that we now use as Dutch citizens in the Netherlands to track our contacts and get a notification if we have been exposed to somebody with Corona. And I really like the spirit that our ministry is putting forward by not only saying that we have to be open, standards-based, but also put their mouth where the word is to do it themselves as well. So it's really a very nice development, I think, in the Netherlands.
Absolutely. And as we come towards the end of this conversation, I'd love to leave our viewers with your perspective on where innovation should be focused on. What from this experience that we've gone through, where should innovators be focusing their attention at this time and in the near term?
Jasper, you want to take it first?
Well, I think I mentioned one that's helping healthcare professionals making the transition to these innovative technologies, because I think that's really difficult for them and for the IT industry also to support it. And if you zoom in on specifics, then I think, for instance, about a very important development in the Netherlands is the use of detailed clinical information models. We call them ZIPs. But this is really a very strong concept, but it's really difficult to implement, also from the user perspective. So I'm thinking about usability. I'm thinking about supporting in innovative ways, structuring of medical language. That kind of stuff. That would be one thing which is high in my mind, that I think that's really a necessity to make it work. And another one is ways to give healthcare professionals and citizens as well, I might say, more control over who can get to your data. And I don't mean your personal data, but for instance, there's a lot of medical data stored in the EHR I use, but as a healthcare professional, I may not be able to say, I want to use that data in this app. And I think this empowerment really needs to happen. So that's another one. How do you unblock the data, let's say?
Yeah, I fully concur here. So coming from the industry domain, also being active in IHE, you often hear that standardization and innovation do not go hand in hand. And I actually personally believe it's the opposite. If we are able to standardize, and if we, I think that in America it's called data liquidity. Yeah, we make data available. Innovation can start to happen, and we are too often a little bit withheld with innovation, because we don't have the data to innovate from. So I would say to all those people that think of innovative and even groundbreaking solutions, still really look at the basics of your architecture, take care of your data I/O, your ingestion and your export of data, and as also Jasper mentioned, find a solution to normalize your data, even in your own system. Don't go into your proprietary, I would say, domains, because it's always easy to do. It's sometimes the fastest route to a solution. But if you really want to innovate, drive standardization from the core of your systems architecture.
Jasper van Lieshout is enterprise architect with the Netherlands Ministry of Health, Welfare and Sport. Andries Hamster Senior Product Manager, Interoperability Solutions at Philips. Jasper, Andries, thank you so much for this discussion today. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
You're welcome.